We most probably have one of the best names internationally of any union. We go back to 1886 when we helped the striking dockers in Britain that were destitute and down on their knees. We raised, at that period of time, £28,000, but it saved a lot of people from dying when that money got to them. They went back to work, but within a short period of time, they got what they set out to get. Australia was known, especially with the seamen, the ITF ships that came in that weren't under an ITF flag, we're going to Australia to pick up cargo, or we're taking cargo to Australia. You know what they said? You beauty. Because when we get to Australia, we know that we're going to be able to call on the assistance of the seamen and the wharfies, and we're going to be able to get the ITF to bring in ITF conditions on those flags of convenient ships. And I kid you not, they wanted to come to Australia. And they still do, because of the work that we have done in the international movement. It is historic. The Dalfram was loading pig iron to Japan. And then, guess who turned up and said that you're not going to determine foreign policy for our nation? Bob Menzies. And as soon as he started to speak, I'm alleged to have heard that some woman yelled out, "Pig Iron Bob!" And that's where he got his name, Pig Iron Bob. The reason being was that they said it will come back in bombs and bullets. Now this is 4 years before the bombing of Darwin. And it turned out to be absolutely right. For in 1942, there was 21 wharfies killed in the ship in Darwin. 21 wharfies, and I think 33 injured, and another about 180 were killed in the city of Darwin. But it was a wonderful, magnificent dispute that was proved again that we were 100% right. In the 1950s was the Cultural Revolution. Long before the Chinese Revolution, Cultural Revolution, let me tell you. Because it had art classes, it had artists, it had the film unit. It was a hive of activity. We were the first to have a library. This magnificent mural was painted on the back wall of the canteen. These are working class art, and I'm 99% sure in the 1940s, early 50s, the realist artist group was set up here in Sydney, and they also were instrumental in making sure that the working class history of our country was going to go on. Here are 4 photos from the Hungry Miles that was done in 1953 by the Sydney branch film unit, and they made, I think, about 11 documentaries, but this was the cornerstone of what had happened. It was called The Hungry Mile, and it depicted the working conditions prior to the 1940s, and one of the saddest things you ever see in the movie was the foreman would pick who he wanted, the big, the strong, and not the union people. And then he would then say, well, there's 10 more jobs. He'd throw the rest of the tabs up in the air and they would fight for them. Now, there's always that great story behind every great man is a woman. Well, I'm going to agree with that, because here we have Ina Heitman and Della Elliott, which Joe will speak on. Ina came into the Sydney branch office in 1950, a 16-year-old, and within a year or two she became Tom Nelson's secretary. This woman was the artistic, not only artistic, but the get-together, putting things together, gelling things, making sure that everything was on the plate before you needed it. All through that period, up until 1995, when the Liverpool dockers were locked out.
Like Australia, the Liverpool workers were locked out and replaced with non-union labour.
You can imagine 450 to 500 dockers, their families, who were involved. And I had an opportunity on 3 occasions to be part of the family life. In fact, I stayed a couple of times in family homes. and they were doing it tough.
The Australian Maritime Union's Jim Donovan was in the thick of the Liverpool fight.
It's me in Liverpool with Kevin, that's Kevin there, and that's Bjorn Borg, not the tennis player, but from Sweden, and that's at the Dockers Club. They've got their own club over there.
Back home in Australia, he's watching history repeat itself.
Nothing's going to happen out there. Well, we were saying that if it happens to you, we could be next, because Liverpool were the last organised, union-organised group of workers in the whole of the British dockers.
Australia was one of the first countries to lend Liverpool support, and Jim spent months alongside the Mersey dockers winning their respect.
But the speeches have been fantastic, but Jim Donovan's made the one true statement. If a law's bad, you fight it. We can't hide behind them. We've done one thing wrong in our disputes. We refuse to cross a picket line, and I'm proud of that.
They won their self-respect. That's number one. I think it's number one in anything you do in life. But in the manner in which it was done, in my opinion and in the opinion of many others, was a question of it was un-Australian. And so firstly we got the public on side. Darling Harbour, we were given every morning, someone would drop off from the quay 4, 5, 6, 10 dozen eggs. And he'd drop them off. Now we couldn't eat that many, but they come in handy when we were flogging the buses, the scab buses with them. And they were pelting them and pelting them and pelting them. The leading person, of course, was John Coombs. There's no doubt in my mind. And he was ably supported by a bloke, Greg Combay. I mean, Greg had been our industrial officer. And then, of course, we had Jenny George, the president, and, of course, Bill Kelty. Every one of them played a magnificent part. There's no doubt about that. 6-1. Well, it was just joyous, you know. They had taken us on, and we won. We won. Because you know how we won? The union is still there. Well, a bit emotional to be honest with you. To see workers treated in the manner that they've been treated, and then by virtue of the employer not wanting to talk to them, the manner in which they were sacked, the manner in which they were told not to come to work, but to see them walk through that gate is just wonderful, wonderful. You know, I've been around for a long time, so I'm so pleased to be here on behalf of representing the veterans of this unit. I quickly say there are some wonderful, wonderful veterans here today that have been recognised by Paul. And let me say thank you for the support you have given the union and myself during that period of time. Thank you. My name is Jim Donovan. MUA, here to stay.